What's going on? Welcome back to the Badge Bro streams here, and we're coming off a tough night. We had our hearts ripped out by a last-second Joshua Palmer touchdown. We were chopping both contests, not one, but two contests. We were chopping first place on Underdog. Hey, but LOL variants. Let's move on. We're moving on to the main slate. We're going to make some money this weekend because we got one of the sharpest minds in the league with us today. You know him from Ship Chasing. You know him from the Roto World Football Pod, NBC Sports Edge. He does the DFS preview show this afternoon. He does the Friday walkthrough, a mandatory must read. It's a crime. It's criminal that it's not behind a paywall. It's criminal, but he's making those big 3-letter network bucks, so it makes sense. It makes sense. But most notably, Peacock Pat, freeze frame Kerrane, known for having the voice of Fergie and Jesus combined, singing odes to Ronald Jones, Mr. Pat Kerrane. How do we do?
Doing good, man. Thanks for the intro. You're quite the hype man.
Dude, I heard Vince McMahon's out of a job, so I'm gunning for it. I'm gunning for it.
I think you got a chance.
Right off the hop, we talked a little bit off camera, but just these BR contests, have you been able to jump in yet? Have you checked out the... Okay.
I haven't done any. My only experience is when we were in Vegas before week one. Pete had done a bunch of them just before that, so he was kind of talking through the strategy with some of the guys that had also been grinding them. So I'm definitely intrigued by them. It's a really cool format, and I kind of like, I like what I was hearing about how you can kind of get off the beaten path pretty easily without, sacrificing too much.
Yeah, because it's very interesting how ownership, unlike DFS, where you're like searching for those low end stacks and whatnot, ownership consolidates pretty densely in these contests around kind of the top 45, top 50 in ADP. So thinking outside of that, we're seeking for game environments that are off the beaten path that we can get unique with right away and not worry about being duped on a path to, a 50K prize on a $5 entry. Like it's very intriguing. It's a very fun contest scenario. Anyway, so sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it just like kind of strikes me that, if you're doing like DFS, and I play small field contests in DFS and I'll get pretty contrarian, but like often, like Leone will float some gross running back and I'll be like, absolutely not. And then 2 days later, I'm like, actually, that's a pretty good play. But if you're on the clock, right, and you have to make that kind of decision, like I'm going to go off the beaten path, get away from this game environment that everyone loves and go to this other game environment, it's going to be harder because you're going to have to make that split-second decision. And so it wouldn't surprise me that this, is a lot chalkier than, kind of DFS. Plus DFS just had so many more years to advance.
Right, yeah. And I think this is where that game's going to progress, is you're going to have to click those quote-unquote gross names, but not a lot of people are doing it right now. So it'll be fun, just thought process. We've talked about some of the macro level stuff and just like roster construction. And basically with these six player builds, like 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, you can get unique by going 2 tight end. But most of the builds are going to be 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, or 1 running back, 3 wide receiver. And then obviously ones and ones at the onesies there. I imagine you were grinding the article last night, but did you get a chance to take in the Thursday Night Football at all?
I did, yeah. I actually did get to see it. Sorry to hear about Palmer. We actually needed that in the high stakes league, so we were cheering.
tough breaks. So the swings of the variant swings of this game, right?
Yeah. No, but I thought it was a pretty interesting game. It wasn't quite as explosive as I was hoping, but I feel like with the Chargers Chiefs, it was like there's gonna be like 80 points. So there's not.
Yeah, you're seeking that game that was Chiefs Rams Thursday night or Sunday night or whatever, the Island game 3 years ago, where it's like that 53 aside kind of deal, and we kind of have that built-in expectation now. Yeah, I watched bits and pieces of it and ran back the highlight stuff this morning, but I don't know that there was much takeaway. Like Mike Williams in that Joe Lombardi X scheme that Michael Thomas used to play, like, oh my God, that could be nasty, but who knows when Keenan will be back and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't love Michelle getting a goal line carry. That felt gross. Although I actually have a decent amount of Michelle in Best Ball Mania, so that's
Selfish.
at least get in,
Yeah.
Michelle. If you're gonna steal it from Eckler, get in.
Oh, I like it. Okay, let's just talk overarching this week. You've done the walkthrough now, highlighting a couple game environments that stick out to you. What are you liking this week? Just as if you could pinpoint that game that maybe nobody else is on right now, where are you looking?
Well, what's kind of fun about doing the walkthrough is like I'm very in the lab, so to speak, on this stuff, and then I kind of come out on Friday, and I'm like,
Mhm.
what do you guys like? So I don't know, like I have no idea what's popular. I'm
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
I'm going to be diving in a little bit more to the DFS stuff here after the show, but as of right now, I kind of like have like it's almost like a first look sort of mindset, but with all my research done for the week. So now I've just got to sort of figure out, okay, where's chalk condensing? What are pivot points? But the games I like, I mean, I think one that jumps out is the Dolphins Ravens. Are people on that one?
We are, and we've talked about it
Okay.
all week as
Okay.
like our favorite skinny stack being Lamar Andrews when he falls in that second and third round, because you can get an alpha piece, then you can get Lamar Andrews in that second, third round as a skinny. And if you get Waddle's free right now. So if you want to run it back with
man.
Waddle, he's free in the late round there. And it was something you pointed out in your column that we were talking about, is the absence of Fuller and maybe Marcus Peters as well.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very hard to run the football against that Ravens defensive front, right? What opens up the middle of the field, in theory?
Sorry?
What opens up in the, like, Waddle opens up in the middle of the
Oh,
field.
what?
If
Yeah.
they, yeah. I don't know.
mean,
That's just
the Ravens were like, they were such a pass funnel last year, and just a lot changes from year to year, but like they're out 2 defensive backs this week, potentially, definitely one, and also the Jets were doing like a lot of checkdowns and stuff. Like it wasn't like they were like attacking the secondary, but they passed a lot more than we thought the Jets were. So it does make me think like, and maybe some of it's check down stuff. Like if we get a high passing environment, maybe Edmonds. But to your Waddle point, I mean, Waddle almost operates sometimes like a, kind of like a glorified running back. That wasn't the case last week, though. He had an ADOT, it was pretty like 9, like fairly, slot receiver-esque.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it came on that 4th and 8, the slant across the middle that he took to the house, right?
Right,
So,
right.
Yeah.
Sort of like all his production came on, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Other game environments that kind of stick out to you. I want to. Can I pinpoint one for you here? I want to
sure.
know a deeper dive thought on that Lions and Washington game.
Deeper dive thought.
Yeah. So we saw last week. We basically saw the Gibson usage that we were hoping for last week, the calendar year before, right? When you were legendary upside, this is what he can be, 11 targets, whatever it may be. I think 11 targets, something like that.
Yeah, he went off. I don't have the number here, but yeah, it was
absurd. He had 8 targets, 14 carries, 51% of routes is what yeah. And I mean, like with JD McKissick on the team and you're still doing that, like I think there's some signal there. And moving
3.13 yards per route run as well. I mean, he was good.
Wow.
He was very good.
Yeah, that is nice. Because that's a game environment right now that nobody's really in these contests touching. And we've kind of been harping on, how about a Gibson plus St. Brown mini? Or how about a Terry plus St. Brown?
Terry, I love. I mean, like Gibson, I'm fully on as well. But Terry, like, my feeling with him is, if he had the game that he had last week, in week 7 or something, we'd be like, oh, not all games are going to be great. Like, you got in the end zone, it's fine. But because it's like the first game and Dotson scores twice and Samuel gets 10 targets and Gibson has the big day, he got like pretty much overshadowed. We know he can win downfield. We know that the defense has to cover other guys, not just him now. We know that Wentz likes to go deep and actually is okay throwing the deep ball. I don't think he's great, but he's not great at anything. It's probably what he does best. So it's sort of like a good fit for the offense. And I think like a very sneaky, bullish week one for Terry McLaurin. 18.3 ADOT, which is like really deep downfield. That's going to lead to some really big weeks, going to lead to some disappointing weeks, but we're shooting for upside here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you said it perfectly, because when we're chasing the ceiling of like a profile in the same capacity that we would say that in season long basketball, like in a 1 week, like we're looking for that boom bust guy with our 6th round pick. And I think he fits that mold beautifully this week.
Yes. Yeah. I like him. And I like the idea of Amon-Ra St. Brown coming back. I mean, he's just shown he's the guy. I avoided Hawkinson a lot in Best Ball Mania, and I'm glad I did, because I just think it's going to be Amon-Ra.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you mentioned it. I can't remember if it was the article or the pod, where they're effectively running the same role, like the same route tree, right?
They have the same ADOT basically. So, okay. And we know, Amon-Ra's going out of the slot mostly. Basically, Hawkinson is. So it's like a similar part of the field. So it's like you got to get open before Amon-Ra St. Brown does, basically. And that's going to be hard.
Yeah, that's a tough feat for anyone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, any other kind of game environments that stand out to you?
The Washington one's interesting. Because you've got the Lions that are, the Lions are. I kind of like what the Lions are doing. Like you really have to be tricky for me to like a run heavy offense. But I get it with the Lions. Like they've been doing this since last year. Basically, once they got rid of Anthony Lynn, Campbell takes over play calling. They've been pretty balanced on 1st and 10. But then they've been really run heavy overall. And it's like if it's 2nd and 8, they're running. Like if there's, 2nd and short, they're running. Like they're running whenever they can get away with it. But they're not putting themselves by running on 1st and 10, you're gonna end up in more 2nd and longs and 3rd and longs, where then eventually you're gonna end up having to pass. Jared Goff's gonna be in a negative situation, and you're risking a negative play from Goff. So I think they're very smartly saying, like, we're gonna make sure that Jared doesn't drop back very often, but a high percentage of his dropbacks will be on 1st and 10. And therefore, that's a favorable passing situation. So they are sort of setting him up for success to an extent while also trying to hide him. And they're playing pretty fast.
Fast is good.
Fast is good. They're trying to score points. They're like, my read is they don't love their quarterback, but they're still trying to go out there and score a bunch of points. Mm-hmm. And their defense isn't very good. And you can do whatever you want on their defense, but Washington showed last week that they're willing to pass. So kind of like the Eagles last week, it's up to Washington here. But Washington, maybe they were going against the pass funnel last week in Jacksonville. But, they could kind of roll a similar game plan here where they are a pass-first team, and this game could get a little fun if that's the case.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the Vegas total numbers and stuff like that are implying that, and that script could be beautiful. That could be fantasy gold mine for us this week. One thing that you illustrated the same with the Giants offense, where they were pass heavy on 1st down, then run heavy after the fact. Like, can we draw any parallels here between the way the Giants are playing right now and the way the Lions are playing?
So I would say the biggest difference between the Lions and the Giants are that the Giants, I think the Giants are actually just trying to hide Daniel Jones, where they're playing slow and they're playing really conservative overall. So yeah, I think the Giants are more like they were pass heavy on 1st and 10 under Jason Garrett last year with Daniel Jones. But this year they were actually quite run heavy on 1st and 10 and run heavy overall. They were about as run heavy as you would expect on 1st and 10, given that they were super run heavy overall. So I think Daboll has completely shifted from what we thought he might be doing, at least through 1 week. Like we thought, they're going to pass a ton. Well, they're passing less, like way less. And they're slow. Like, I mean, Daboll's not dumb, right? We think he's sharp. Like Daniel Jones stinks. We know he stinks. So I think, they're trying to win games by featuring Saquon, And it seems like their primary goal right now is to hide Daniel Jones rather than do kind of the Lions thing where they kind of try to eke out enough passing from him.
Okay. Two more game environments I want to hit on with you. You kind of scared me off. We were really bullish on that Tampa and the Saints game because we were looking at these suppressed prices right now. I know you haven't been in the streets yet, but what I'll show you that we were looking at is we were looking at Mike Evans with an ADP at 19 as the highest priced player in that game. And then we were looking at Fournette at 25, Kamara basically off the board behind Hendo, Akers, Melvin Gordon. Like, where is he now? Maybe I must have missed him. He must have pushed up now. Hold on. That's weird. Yeah, 32.8 on Kamara. So the Q tag coupled with last week and being in for so many basically blocking reps and lack of targets is genuinely scaring people off. And then basically no other pass catcher in that game is getting drafted unless they're just one-offs. Thoughts? Like, I was really bullish on buying these price tags and then read your article and I was like, ooh, maybe I should be scared and just consolidate around Lenny, basically.
Yeah, Lenny's a strong play because the Buccaneers are still good. But I was pointing out in the walkthrough, like, they were dealing with 3 injury replacements last year on the offensive line, and not last year, last week, excuse me. And all of those guys, they were much better in run blocking than pass blocking. And we also have, like, Tom Brady, I think he's not going to just like willingly take a bunch of hits. Like, if the line, if their strength is run blocking, they're going to run, I think, more than we're used to from the Bucs. The Saints also just got roasted by Cordell Patterson. They're supposed to be, they were awesome against the run. They've been awesome against the run for years, but they weren't last week. And so this is also a matchup where Brady has typically struggled. And so part of me wonders if he's just like, let's just roll these guys. Like, they can't push back. And the Bucs defense looks all right. Like, so that's kind of how I'm thinking that they might handle it, which makes Fournette potentially a very strong play. Like, also with Evans, and they're all dealing with, like, Evans was dealing with a calf injury. Like, nobody's healthy. Yeah. So it seems like, it might well be Brashad Perriman or something this week, like, or like Kate. The
irony that comes all the way around full circle, eh? Like, after last year.
Yeah, the Kamara stuff, man. Like, he ran around on 43% of dropbacks. He was never below 47% in 2021. He only dropped below 64% 3 times in 2021. Sam Sherman on Stat Chasing was also saying, like, if you're looking for a running back to panic on, it's probably Kamara rather than like CMC or some of these other highly drafted guys. Yeah, because it's like the workload was, I mean, because it's also not just 1 week with Kamara, right? Like, his rushing efficiency cratered last season, and he didn't get used as a pass catcher like we were hoping last season. So now he comes in week 1 and his routes are down 43%. I mean, I don't know. It's just like kind of a continuous drumbeat of negativity here for the Kamara workload. So, I mean, if he's like free in these, I don't, it's Alvin Kamara. Like, he can obviously go off. So that's where like kind of I'm like, I don't know if I'd full fade a free unplayed Alvin Kamara, but I get why people are nervous.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. And that's where the balance becomes, like, in these contests, is like, hey, we're not always just going to play the best plays. We want exposure to these high ceiling, high upside players, right? A week and a half ago, he's going 7 through 15 overall, right? Like, we're just going to throw that completely out the window in a 5-year sample? Like, probably not. But it was very, like, quote unquote alarming. And one thing I'll say to make like the bull case for him is last season's rushing efficiency being down could be maybe directly correlated to the fact that they had no quality pass catching and route runners.
Right.
Like, they basically got 3 WR1s comparative to last season now.
Yeah, like, they still have all those guys that they had last year. They're all backups.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, they literally had backups starting for them last year.
Yeah, the entirety of last year, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, last game environment I want to hit, and then we should just jump in some drafts and just talk through some things organically as it comes to us. But very chalky game right now is that Atlanta and I wanted to say St. Louis and the Rams game there.
That's interesting. I don't see that game as particularly fun.
Interesting. Okay.
Mostly because I think the Rams are just gonna beat the crap out of the Falcons. And I think so. We have now with the Rams a very long trend going on where they, after the bye week last year, they switched identities. Basically, they went more balanced, and they continued that trend through the playoffs. And they didn't, the Bills were the Bills eventually just beat the crap out of them as well. But they're not like embracing the past the way they were at the beginning of last year. And we've got a lot of data on this now that makes me feel like they're going to basically roll through Henderson and Cooper Kupp. Obviously, I mean, Cooper Kupp is still Cooper Kupp. Like you gotta be excited about playing Cooper Kupp. But other than him, like I think Darrell Henderson's going to get a ton of work. He led all running backs in route percentage last week, which I think, he led all running backs in snap percentage, but routes. I mean, Darrell Henderson is not a guy you expect to just be like out there running every route, but he's getting a ton of opportunities. So
one thing to that, Pat. Sorry. One thing to that is, do you think that was just a byproduct of script that they were just chasing points all night long? Like, is that a misleading stat?
It could be like, potential, like they just have him out there running routes because, they need to just have that check down option or whatever. But like, I'm not talking about targets, it's like he's out there running a route when another offense would probably have a running back out there running a route, but it would be a different running back. Like it's more, I think about like the fact that he's just, it's like a one back system. And you're seeing like the guys who are up there with him are like Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, like the one backs. So he's being treated like a one back guy. And I talked about, to me, I'm like, this is something almost expected. I actually like I almost nailed it, but the slip up was that I got it exactly wrong. Like in the week one walkthrough, I was like, did this whole thing about, I quoted it in here so you can see kind of like, my thought process getting me to the exact wrong conclusion. But I was like, I don't know, like maybe Akers just like, maybe he's just ready and they just give him 80% of the snaps like out of the gate, because it seems very clear that McVay wants to do this. So like, I don't know, this could be exciting. And then it was Henderson and Akers didn't play at all. So
do you think this week, like just by happenstance, let's say behind closed doors, Akers is quote unquote full go now. Do you think there's potential that in this week that just flips and all of a sudden we just see 80% snap share for Akers?
I don't think that we'll see that this week, but I do think that like keep an eye out for Akers to ramp up a bit. Because I think what'll happen is Akers might come up and like get to 20-30% of snaps, or like Henderson comes down from the 80s to like 65-70, and then the following week Akers flips him. I think like something like that would be in play. But I would guess, I mean, I wouldn't completely rule it out. I guess the thing that would make me question that is just that like Akers didn't look good. Okay. And so I just don't know if he's ready, but it's definitely possible.
Would you be chasing anything on the Atlanta side in this environment? Pitts is obviously really popular, gets drafted at 100% frequency. CPAT is really popular. He's up to like, whether it's recency bias or whatever, he's up to like 16th, 17th in ADP in these contests. And one thing I can't remember, I wrote it down and it's not in front of me right now. I wrote down one of the stats you brought up about Mariota, either his completion or either his expected points were promising.
Yeah,
like
promising.
15, yeah. So do you think that's aided by the rushing floor? Because he had like 11, 13 carries or something.
Yeah, I think it probably is. And his accuracy was not very good. So I think it's also maybe it's just going to regress too. So that's another reason I'm not a huge fan of this game, is because to me it shapes up as one where the Rams are going to prove they're not terrible, get ahead, run the ball, and the Falcons are going to not embrace the pass in a major way. Like they were kind of impressive to me in that they didn't go like crazy run heavy, but it's still the Falcons, it's still Arthur Smith. Like they're not going to be delighted to be in a comeback mode type of script. So, yeah, I think if you're looking for pieces, like maybe, I don't know, London might be like too deep for this, but London definitely jumped out to me as like, this guy looks like he might start rolling right away. Like he might be ready to have a breakout like rookie season the whole season. I mean, already tying Pitts in targets, playing really well, having really strong yards per out run. Pitts 7 pass blocking snaps last week. Only had 15 all of last season. That definitely jumped out to me as like, oh no, you're turning him into a real tight end. Please don't. but that's good for Drake London. If there's certain snaps where Pitts isn't even running a route, I guess pretty great for him. So, you know, you tell me if that's like too kind of galaxy brain for this contest, but he's.
I don't think so. With 53K entries, especially in a game where Cup's getting 100% drafted, I think it's a pretty sharp way to get unique to have a 6th round run back of Drake London, because that'll take like your combinatorial ownership of that build and just push it way down, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I lied. I got 2 things I want to ask you still. There's a bunch of get right spots on this slate. We got the Denver going to Houston. We got the Niners at home, blah, blah, blah. I know you guys talked on Ship Chasing about the backfield, the Niners backfield and stuff, but what do you envision kind of their optimal approach to what is most likely a Seattle pass funnel that's now missing Jamal Adams? Do you think they come out and they just target that middle of the field and they let Lance cook at home? Or do you think this turns into a classic Shanahan rotate the backs committee style? Debo gets 8 carries, that kind of jam.
The latter. Yeah. I don't think they're going to, they're just not like I think we're just hoping that Lance can redeem himself a little bit from a very poor week 1, but obviously an understandably poor week 1 in the conditions. But yeah, I think my guess is that Debo's the running back 2, and he's so good that he can be the running back 2 and also like lead the team in target share. But I think that my read on the running back stuff is that I think who knows? It's Shanahan, so who knows? But like, it feels more likely to me that, first of all, I don't think Jordan Mason is anything. He didn't play a snap last week, and he was active. So why wouldn't he play a snap if he was going to play this week?
Yeah.
So
Tyrion Davis feels like Price, Michael Hasty all over again.
It does. Yeah, it totally does. And Hasty sometimes played.
That's true.
Tyrion Davis Price was a healthy scratch. I think he'll get a little bit of work, but Debo's so good in the run game. I have to imagine he gets a decent role there. So that makes Ayuk a little bit more interesting to me. If Kittle doesn't go, doesn't seem like Kittle's going, right? So
we were on him early this week and drafting him because there's a late swap functionality to these games. So we were taking him with our very last pick and then being like, hey, whatever, if he doesn't go, we can just late swap him out. But we were taking him unstacked anyways. So maybe we fall into some natural correlations with the guys that get pushed up at tight end there, or maybe we just fall into one-offs of Logan Thomas or TJ Hawkinson.
Right.
Yeah. And you just, we punted tight end in that build.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think Ayuk is a little interesting to me. And he can kind of get there if you're right and they attack the Seahawks through the air. But I think he can also get there as kind of a big play guy on a run heavy team. And they should score some points this week. which would be nice to see.
Yeah. The only thing concerning right now is weather. They might be playing in a monsoon again.
God damn, really?
Yeah, it's so rare for rain in that area at this time of year for these games. But initial the Roto Grinders weather report guy was reporting like, oh yeah, there might be heavy rain in this forecast already. It's a little far out to be making our minds up with those builds, but it's on our radar right now at least.
For sure.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Actually, this ties right in here. If we were to run Trey this week in these contests, because he is getting drafted, would you gravitate to running him stacked or unstacked?
I mean, if I was gonna, I'm open to either. I would do like a single with Ayuk or single with Debo, I think. But I think you could totally go unstacked. I mean, he threw to Juwan Jennings a decent amount last week.
Okay.
Which you're not going to play Juwan Jennings, but my point is like we might not be able to exactly predict like where his touchdown or two goes, right? So or maybe he runs it in. So I think single stack or naked are both in play.
Okay. Yeah, I think the only kind of single stack that exists now that like the Kittle thing's kind of written off is Debo, and Debo's going at the 5-4, like the 1-2 turn right now. Like he's a premium. He's the back end of that WR1 where it just goes Cup, Adams, Chase, and then it's Debo, and then there's a drop off basically, and it's that Pitts, Hill, whatever tier there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, let's jump in a couple of these here and just fire and get a feel for them.
All right,
they feel nice and quick for us.
But basically, in the chat.
Yeah, exactly. But basically, Pat, like they're offering now, like they ran some single entries last week, which I thought were great structures, and they did way with them this week, and it's all multi-entry stuff. But there's a $5, there's a $25, and there's a $100. And they're all 150 entry, 67 entry, and 9 entry. So when we're building these, in theory, we're building a portfolio because we're not building one-offs. Like the way we were playing the single contest would be like, okay, let's isolate like the best game environment. Let's correlate and go. Whereas I'm not sure that's optimal. I don't know yet in these contests, but I don't know. It's just thinking out loud.
Yeah, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your general strategy in terms of like, are you just trying to get a couple studs here and then figure it out? Are you going in with like, I want to try to build around this game from the jump? Are there specific like spots in the lineup where it kind of push you to certain games?
Yeah, I think the way you build progressively changes throughout the contest. So like pending what's available to us, we'll build in certain way. There's Numi going first. He's a badge bro. Yeah, it pushes us in certain ways to build. So like right here, we got Chase, Mixon, Debo, CMC. CMC's my highest owned player this week because he's been available in this later range now. But your article kind of scared me off a little bit.
No, I like CMC still, but
I think for me right here is Chase is kind of like that alpha tier of wide receiver that's like slate break upside. Let's take him, and then we can kind of balance with whatever falls after, and then talk through some interesting ways to get different later. Does anyone stand out to you between Mixon, Samuel, Javonte Williams?
Mixon, I mean, what do you think about the Mixon correlation? I think him or Javonte are pretty interesting.
Okay, let's do the Mixon correlation because I think it'll be quote unquote rarer than people won't want to click both, right? If it's a Mixon game, how can it be a Jamar game, right? Is like the natural instinct that people will gravitate towards. So the fact that we pair them together there, I think it instantly makes us unique, but I'm not definitively certain on that.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, because I was surprised. I mean, first of all, they're playing the Cowboys, so it could easily be a Mixon game. So it's more about Chase getting there. But Mixon caught some passes last week, man. Like I faded Mixon in Best Ball Mania, and that's he's making me nervous. So,
well, the here, Pat, throw your hand at the camera there. You blurred out a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Maybe. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
It'll
Blur
come back.
face Kerrane. Blur face
Yeah.
Kerrane. This is a new one now.
It's actually not new, unfortunately. There are in our Discord we have an emoji of that
Of
the
the blurred
blurred
foot? Oh,
Kerrane
I didn't
face.
know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on the clock again here. We could go Burrow and go super stack. I don't think it's
Oh,
necessary, but
I
I
mean,
think
come
it's
on, though.
fun.
That's pretty fun. Let's
Okay.
do it. It's too fun.
Yeah, okay.
What are we
Now
doing?
with this build, would you contemplate a run back? Numi, one of the badge bros, he's in this contest as well. He's been preaching how underpriced CD Lamb is this week, and he's been taking a lot of it, naked and run back. Is that something you're interested in?
I guess, yeah. I mean, we did this whole thing. We got Burrow. We need them to push him. I think the Cowboys are like, I mean, they looked so bad last week, and they drastically underperformed their opportunity. But Rush had a really high average depth of target, so I do wonder, maybe you can get there. CD can get there on a couple big plays. Like maybe we don't need just a volume based approach, which would be nice since Rush is not very good.
Okay, so do you want to just hit that game right there and then get fun with the last two?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to have to go deep with the last two because I think this is going to be, instantly selecting in your 20 picks 4 guys from the top 20 or top 15 in ADP, even if it's in a unique combination, is still going to be like somewhat quote unquote chalky. So I think we're going to have to get cute. We're going to have to get adventurous here and just pick a game environment that we like or pick some one-offs that we like.
Okay.
One of them has to be tight end.
Okay.
Numi's got a nice little build going here. This Debo plus Cup is a very rare start. The fact that Debo fell that far is
nice.
Yeah, that's a
Tyreek.
Nice.
I mean, that's a nice. I like Tyreek this week.
Nice. Oh, actually, there was a question in the chat earlier about Tyreek. Do you think the gap between Waddle and Tyreek should be so large? Like Waddle's going undrafted and Tyreek's going drafted 100% of the time early.
No, I don't think it should be so large. Waddle's really good. I mean, you're just not going to see this kind of target discrepancy between them for the season.
Right.
I mean, he had, I think it was 12 to 5 in targets. Waddle obviously only saved his day because of that big play, but no, I don't think it should be that far.
Fair enough. Yep. Okay, I got 2 fun ideas. We can do a mini game stack with Fournette and then your boy Jawan Johnson, who ran a bunch of routes.
Let's do it.
Okay, you want to do that one? Because he's 100% going undrafted in these contests, and I've seen Taysom go a couple times. What are your thoughts on Taysom? Because tight end eligibility and such, I've seen him go a couple times as a run back. Is that anything that would interest you, or?
I mean, sure, like, whatever. Maybe he gets a goal line carry or something. I don't think it's crazy, but isn't the whole thing with Taysom that he's eventually going to like make a start at quarterback, and that's why he breaks the game?
You know what, Pat? We might just have to throw exactly what I just said out the window and just take Kyle Pitts because he's here.
Yeah, let's take Kyle Pitts. What are we doing? It's Kyle Pitts. Are we take Jawan Johnson over Kyle Pitts? No.
That's funny. I mean, there's definitely a chance that this lineup is duped in a 50,000 person whatever, but the fact that, Pitts falls that far, and you know what, this first 3 right here, I actually don't think it's going to be as common as we think it is, because I think people are very apprehensive to click Mixon's name after clicking Chase's name. And for it to occur, Chase has to fall past like 3-4 because Mixon rarely falls this way, like he rarely falls to like 10. Yeah. What do you think? We could talk a little signal or noise or whatever with Mixon there. Like, do you think his route participation was legit, or do you think it was the same kind of, it's basically the same analogy as Hendo, where were they just chasing points the whole time?
It's hard for me with Mixon because I faded the crap out of him in redraft, not just best ball. So I don't have a lot of juju in best ball at all, but I was open to him because other people I'm drafting with and stuff really liked him. So I was open to juju in some of my, I have him on some high stakes teams. That's not the case with Mixon. So I'm just like, kind of full fade this dude. So I would love to have this be like kind of a fluky week 1 thing. It would be great, but I'm sort of feeling like, well, my biases are like screaming for me to think that. So let's try to be open-minded to this being real. If I'm going to make the case against it, it would be that like they were turning the ball over constantly in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had the Bengals sort of like playing this really like up tempo, got to kind of make up for the fact that, Burrow's literally turned the ball over 5 times. And so I do feel like, they were passing a little bit more like short and to mix in on like, there was more kind of opportunities for sort of like hurry up play style where he was on the field. Like it wasn't actually the 2-minute drill, but it sort of felt like the 2-minute drill and he was out there. So, I think some of those snaps might normally go to Samaj Pirine or whatever. And he was
that's what we saw
from
last year, especially in the postseason, is we did see Samaje in that role.
Yeah.
So it's encouraging to then see Mixon in this role.
It is. Right? Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I mean, he still wasn't really the third down guy. It was a lot of this was happening on early downs. But I mean, part of it for me is like, hey, if he's got this in his range, playing mostly early downs, like I didn't think this was really in the range. So it's pretty exciting. It's kind of like with Javonte Williams, where I'm like, I don't expect him to catch 12 targets again, or see 12 targets again, like all year. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he even did it once is kind of eye-opening.
Right. And he did it once and he did it on 58% of snaps.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay. Like you think this guy's a focal point of the offense? Like potentially.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we rolled the 106 this time. Some of the familiar faces are back with us again. Numi's right in here, playing the corners versus us. How can we get different this time and kind of take some interesting spots and stands on the front end of this board?
Well, I was going to ask you where you're at on Javonte because he's interesting. I mean, Javonte and CMC would be pretty fun.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think Numi's a Chase guy, but he might be a CMC guy. Yeah, the CMC stuff, because with CMC's price being suppressed this week, yeah, you like this? Let's
let's do that.
Start here.
Fun. Yeah.
Okay, cool. The thing that's interesting about CMC when I was reading through your stuff, because I was really going, I didn't really care that both teams would like to play slow because I was trying to pair at the 6-7 turn Saquon and CMC, which is a rare idea to pair running backs. Like there's negative correlation when we play DFS in pairing running backs, but when both of them have like every down rules with pass catching floors like we think they do after week 1, I was very intrigued with, okay, all the offense through this game is going to consolidate around these two players, and then maybe Robbie Anderson's for real and he breaks something, or DJ Moore starts winning over the middle of the field. I've been mixing in a lot of DJ Moore late in these drafts as well. He's free as well, in the same capacity that Waddle's free, like just another elite talent that's in the 6th round, right?
Let's try to get him here because that'd be nice.
And get a weird little double on the Carolina side. Okay, sure.
Yeah, because you're getting like the play is like you're getting all the volume from an offense.
Okay. Yeah. No. I like that. Yeah, but okay. So that game environment, when I was reading your stuff, you kind of scared me off of it because it's like, well, are they both going to play slow? This could be much more low scoring than we anticipated. Poor, inefficient quarterback play. I don't know. What are you thinking in that game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like, if the Giants are going to be trying to hide Daniel Jones, I don't think the Panthers are going to be trying to push anybody. So,
okay,
that's not fun. But I guess my thing with McCaffrey is like, you just don't need. It just doesn't matter. Like there's certain guys that it's like it just doesn't really matter what is happening in the game. Like when I did the legendary upside article, like it's like, man, offensive line is so important, but not for McCaffrey. Because McCaffrey gets all the snaps and catches all the balls. Like it just doesn't like if you hack the game and you can, just get all the snaps out of the backfield and catch a ton of balls, like then game environment and pace and all that stuff, it just doesn't really matter as much. So
I gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of my thought process with taking so much CMC this week. Okay, running backs off our board because you can only take 2. So we'll probably wait on DJ Moore, or we can solidify that now and then think through some other combinations. Just
No,
because we were
let's wait
talking
on
about it.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually talked myself out of it a little bit.
Okay.
What about, could we do like a Russ Judy or get a Broncos
sure.
thing going? That might be more fun.
Well, and but then we're going Broncos onslaught on this side. You're comfortable?
Well, yeah,
with
we
that?
don't have to do that. What else jumps out to you?
I think Cooks is going to be like a really natural bring back with this build.
Okay.
But now the fact that we took Russ here, I think a nice way to get different is to take Albert O at the tight end and then get weird with wide receiver here.
Okay, let's do that.
And go with the game environment that we were talking about earlier with this and Terry.
Love it.
Yeah, I don't know. These drafts, like this is kind of what we were talking about early, and we're kind of doing it on the fly like this. With these 30-second shot clocks like this, people just click what's at the top of the queue. Even you and I right now, like we're chatting, and then it's just kind of like, oh, who's in the front of the ADP? So all these builds consolidate around the same player pool. Like you really have to be thinking through or having a plan of attack to these drafts to get unique and build out different stuff, because it takes a discipline of some sort to be like, oh no, we're going to fade. I don't even know who was at the top. We're going to fade. Kyler Murray was like right there, right? We're going to say no to Kyler Murray because whatever reason, right?
Yeah. So I don't draft off of like in best ball, like season long stuff. I don't draft off of ranks. I draft off the ADP because I think it's like, I mean, just for me, like I want to know the prices, and then like I have plenty of opinions and stuff, so I'll be okay there. But here, I wonder if like drafting off ranks would make, as long as you probably want to be in here and know what the ADPs are and understand like kind of what was chalk and who was free. But feels like drafting off ranks here might be kind of nice, because you're just like, and maybe you're doing ranks like, like you kind of adjusting your ranks every couple drafts to try to get different combos.
Yeah. I'll speak to it in the baseball stuff. When I was doing like the max stuff, they didn't have ADP until middle of the summer here. ADP is a new feature, and I'm not sure how frequently it's updating. They've said themselves on the back end that we're not so sure how accurate this ADP data is right now. So it does throw a little wrinkle in the game theory associated with this contest. So in that regard, I think you're right. Like uploading a rank sheet with your projections and then progressively updating your projections as new information funnels throughout the week. Yeah. So we're back here. Are we sold on this, this Terry, plus Albert O mini?
I'm into it.
Yeah. There's the other thing is like, we don't have to correlate that heavy if we don't want to. And we like some other of these pieces around here. You think T. Higgins plays this week?
I don't think so, right? I mean, he missed because of a personal reason. I guess we'll know more today, but I would lean no. Yeah, I would lean no. I like the Terry mini a lot. That's super fun. Okay,
so let's do that for sure. And then there's no saying that we have to take this tight end. We could also, we got 20 seconds. We could go Ertz, Schultz, Higbee, Hurst, Hawkinson. Correlate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of feel the same way in that regard. Once you kind of get past that initial elite tier of Andrews, Waller, Pitts, it's just kind of like, pick your poison. Maybe you can build some one-offs to get unique and that sort of thing. Here's a good point that, Numi's building another nice team. He goes bully tight end with the two premium tight ends like this. Then he gets weird with Waddle. He only has one piece of that correlated Las Vegas game. And then he builds it with a one-off Najee. So like the fact that, are we certain that the difference between Javon and Numi's a fellow badge, bro. He's a really good player, right? So it gives you an idea into the thought process behind the meta behind these games, right? Where it's not as cut and dry as we may think at this time. And there's some very interesting ways, because are we sure that first round Javonte is 30 picks of ADP better a play than Najee Harris this week? Probably
or not.
not. Yeah, exactly. Right. So it creates this very interesting dynamic where, we're not dealing with a 2-game slate here where it's like, oh shit, it's thin at the back end. We're grasping at straws for that sort of thing. Pat, you want to run one more, or I don't want to take up your full day? Okay, sure.
No, we're good.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, man. I know probably not much sleep last night writing that column.
There wasn't, and I'm like, I was all like feeling myself on ship chasing. Like my schedule. I'm like nailing it so far. I'm way ahead of schedule. And then Thursday, like I just didn't get as much writing done in the mornings I thought, and then that was it. It's like that's the thing with this column. It's such a beast. It's like if I fall behind at any point, then it's gonna be a sleepless Thursday. But hey, it's out there. I think it's pretty good. Check it out.
No, I think it's really good, Pat. Like, honestly, God, it's like my go-to for like the start of the week here, like, or start of like the draft week end, right? Yeah. It's like just even if there's just one tidbit, even if there's just one takeaway, you know what I mean? That it's just like, oh, that's a separator for me. That changed my mind there. Like,
yeah, it is fun, like how much things have progressed, right? Where it's like Friday, sort of the beginning of this, this new grind till Sunday. I don't know. I felt like you could, like 3-4 years ago, just like DFS content on Tuesday you're checking out. It's like Tuesday. Those ideas are gone now. We've moved on.
Right. Well, you know what's great and why I love this new space and I love this content space is these drafts drop on Tuesday. I've already done 50 of them, right? Like Mimi's already done 85 of them, where it's like the ADPs are going to change so heavily, or in theory when they get adjusted. But like we're going to be building rosters that we want in our portfolio on. I assume we're just taking Cup here. Is he your favorite wide receiver play of the week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's hard to ever consider otherwise now, unless maybe Jefferson on the slate, but
that's a bit. Jefferson's not on this slate, right?
No, yeah, it's Sunday only 12 gamer.
Yeah, he would be, I think, my favorite.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No, just that spot versus the Eagles.
Just the spot. Yeah, I think that game could get really fun. I'm so mad that game's not on the main slate. I just think it'd be so interesting because I'm sure Jefferson would be super chalky, but maybe you could find ways to make it work. And then I think Dalvin Cook is set up for a huge game.
Yeah. They got gashed by the run last week.
Yep. And he was really involved in terms of route running and everything. So, I mean, he's got a very similar role to the one I was talking about with Darrell Henderson, but he's Dalvin Cook. Like he's going to do more with that role.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's see. I'm looking at Minnesota here. Yeah, 77% of snaps, 70% routes run.
Yeah.
Like that's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And he plays inside. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, give me those turf shootouts.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Eagles are like kind of what we were hoping. Like, they're not going to be like this pass heavy team, but they're going to be balanced. They're not trying to go into a shell like they were kind of the middle, kind of like third, fourth of last season or whatever. So, I think that game should be fun.
All right, we're up again here. We got Javonte, Swift, Connor. You think Pittman goes this week?
I don't know, man.
It's kind of dicey all of a sudden. Yeah. Any targets we like in the top of this board here?
I like Javonte and Swift, but I'm down with either.
Okay, let's take Javonte because the interesting thing about Swift is like all that goal line usage that we saw with Jamal last week. You think that's real? Like, do you think it's going to be a defined roles kind of thing, or do you think that real. Was just happenstance?
No, I think it was.
Let's make a pick and then talk about it. We can get correlated with this Rams game if we want to take Pitts right now.
Let's wait because we might be able to get London.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Then what do you like in this range? Do we take a shot on that Pittman? Do we take one of these elite QBs? We could run like naked Lamar.
Lamar would be fun.
Okay, yeah, we could do naked Lamar or Lamar bring back with Waddle.
Okay, I like both those.
Well, you know what we could do with this build? Waddle and London were instantly unique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've kind of been punting tight end so far and kind of ended up in a couple kind of gross spots. We had the one where Pitts fell to us, but we kind of did end up in some weird spots there.
Yeah, but we had a correlated Alberto. We have Pitts and a correlated Alberto. I feel good about
That's
our tight
true.
ends.
Yeah, that's fair.
Are you normally trying to go elite tight end here?
I think so, but not like definitively. I think just the way the board falls and starts out is Andrews, Lamar are basically my two highest owned players this week.
Yeah.
And I think my best builds are either elite wide receiver and then CMC falls, or elite wide receiver and then the Andrews Lamar falls. But I don't think it's happening as much as the weeks kind of picked up here and people are getting onto that. TJ Hernandez put out a tweet yesterday that game is the only game with obviously 1 week sample size, but it's the only game with two teams that were in the top 10 in pass rate or over expectation.
It must be pass over expected. Yeah, PROE. Yeah. No, both were. What's interesting about that game, I think it's kind of so fun about that game, is that right, we don't know why that happened. Especially for the Dolphins.
Here, Pat, hold it for 1 second. Yeah. You're a vet. You know what's up. Do we just grab Waddle here?
Yeah, let's just take Waddle.
Okay.
And then what? We might want to get a tight end, or we just grab London, get that done.
That's kind of up to us. Okay. I think London will be there.
Oh, so okay.
Because we have one more slot to fill that can be running back or wide receiver, and then we have to fill tight end. A Higbee, I don't love Higbee double without staff, but it's definitely unique.
Higbee's so bad. I have a ton of Higbee, but the man is not good.
Yeah, the 11 targets last week when in like the trailing script, and he still just gets like 50 yards or whatever. It was like, yeah, this is peak Higbee.
It is so peak Higbee. It's so fun because everyone's like, this is why you fade Higbee. And I was like, this is why you draft Higbee.
Anyone you like in the tight end range?
I mean, honestly, Higbee's probably the guy I would take.
Okay, and just run that.
Yeah, okay. Just run it.
Yeah, 11 targets, 5 catches for, what was it there? I can't click on his name anymore.
Like probably 4 receptions.
For 3 yards.
Yeah, because he just drops everything.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But
that's good. Actually, Numi had a good suggestion here to just go Hawk. He likes Hawk this week and just have Hawk as a one-off. Yeah.
I could see it.
Yeah.
I do understand on that Dolphins game. I find that so intriguing because you have the Dolphins had a higher pass rate expected than we thought they would. But then you also have the situation. It's like, well, maybe the Patriots are going to be a pass funnel. Like maybe they're just playing the matchup. But then you also have the situation where, okay, but the Ravens look like a pass funnel too. So it's like one of these things where I don't feel like I'm overreacting to week 1 by going Miami's going to pass more than we thought because I don't know. Maybe week 6 or whatever, they're like a super run heavy team, but they're willing to play the match. They're either a pass first team than we thought they were, or they're very willing to play matchups. And in either case, I think they'll pass this week. And then the Ravens, like, I don't know, J.K. Dobbins is not going to be ready for them to just lean on him, right? So they kind of have to. I think they have to attack through the air primarily as well. And also, the Dolphins look like they're going to be frisky. They're going to be able to push the Ravens a little bit, certainly more than the Jets did. So the whole game just sets up as really fun.
That Jets 53 pass attempts was just so weird. It was just like such an outlier where it's like, what's going on here? And then the target distribution of like 11, 10, 9, 7 across the board.
Yeah.
It's just okay. We got CPAT there if we want to entertain that as well, or if we like London.
I'm into that.
London's. Which one do you prefer? Okay, sure.
At this price, I think, and we need the running back.
Yeah, and I think CPAT plus Cup will be like heavily owned, right? As like a very natural pairing. The Cup plus Pitts and Cup plus CPAT will be a very natural pairing. But I think the fact that we mixed Higbee without Staff makes it like so unique that it might not even matter. Like, right?
Higbee's our key to victory.
Yeah, he's the
What could
skeleton
go
key
wrong?
this week.
Can't wait to see him drop a touchdown that would win it for us.
Yeah, this is peak Galaxy bro, like Galaxy brain GPP bro shit. It's like, yeah, let's just pair that tight end who's going to eat the same volume in the exact same positions that Cup's going to.
Let's draft a guy who we know is going to break our hearts. That's how you got to play these.
Exactly. That's beautiful, man. I will run drafts all day long if you want to keep running drafts, but I promised an hour and we're an hour on the nose, my friend. So
I got to run and prep for our DFS Q&A that I'm doing with Kyle here at 1. So
absolutely. Yeah. So tell people where they can watch that one.
Yeah, it'll be on NBC, the NBC Sports YouTube, NFL on NBC. You can check that out. Yeah, we're doing that every Friday. Every Friday at 1, me and Kyle talking DFS Q&A.
Beautiful. I love that. And I'd be remiss not to mention you have a new colleague at NBC Sports Edge who came from the 1 week season streets. And I imagine he's going to be paying his dues doing the blurb stuff. Like, I guess that's the entry.
That's how you get. Well, I mean, the entry. Like, I'm still blurbing.
Right?
Pat Doherty's still blurbing. I'm not sure the blurbing stops.
Right, fair enough. It's just part of the gig. Yeah, but Mark Garcia, he goes as Hilo FF on Twitter. I don't know if you've ever seen any of his content. Whatever.
He's doing some DFS stuff for us as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, he's a good, sharp player, and we talked a lot of the best ball stuff together in the off season there. And he's coming on the show. That was my plug for he's coming on the show Tuesday. So nice. That's our next guest. And yeah, so actually the irony in it was I was plugging in an NBC guest coming on, and it was going to be him today. And then he bailed, and you confirmed at the exact same, like you confirmed like Friday. And I was going to be like, okay, we'll just run 2 shows Friday. That's amazing that Pat can do it so quick. And then he bailed, and I was like, oh, perfect. Like I wasn't even lying this whole time.
You're teasing this NBC guest.
Yeah, we got connections to the 3-letter network, baby.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's great. Hey, Pat, appreciate so much for the time. Love your article. Go read the walkthrough if you want to be better at these games. Sharpest shit out there. Thank you so much, man. Everybody's favorite part of the show who have been here the last couple of days is all these elite graphics that we have splurged for. Let's get out of here. Thank you so much, Pat.